welcome to episode 2 of People with Issues. This week I'm really excited to have Raph from Canada as my guest. And yes, that is Raph from Raph's Retros Comics. Now, in the highly unlikely event you're unfamiliar with Raph's Retro Comics, as soon as you finish watching this video, given it a like, left a comment, and subscribe to the channel, of course, head straight over to Raph's Retro Comics, where you can immerse yourself in a wealth of features covering every aspect of comics and comic collecting. Loads of fantastically researched and presented features on artists, writers, titles, runs, different periods of comics, and there's something there for everybody. It's really great stuff. Definitely one of the first things I look for when he releases a new video. Now, the only problem that left me with was, for a guy who's covered so much on his own channel already, what the hell would I find to talk to him about? So let's see how we got on. Hi, Raph. Thanks very much for joining me. How are you doing, sir?
Hello, Paul. Thanks for the invite. I am doing great. Thank you. And I'm looking forward to talking about comic books.
Me too. Fantastic. Raph, how did it all begin with you in comics? What was your sort of first real sort of experience of comics?
Well, the first comic book, and I actually still have a part of it, and it's this, and
Aha.
this was given to me as a party favor at a birthday party. So this came out, I believe, in 1982, but not really quite sure if it was freshly new off the stands when it was given to me. But I was given this along with another comic book at a neighbor's birthday party when I was a kid, and I mean, I had been exposed to comic books before, but I had never had my own. And
Yeah.
and this is just the front cover that's left,
Is it?
and it's
What's
the
what's
first
happened to the rest?
limited series published by Marvel called Contest of Champions, and this was kind of like um, the intent of this was to have been published around the time of the 1980 Olympics, but they
Mhm.
decided to shelve it for a couple of years, and so this was kind of their own kind of heroes, kind of battling it out to, you know, for a prize. And the funny thing about this comic book is that they actually got the ending wrong. The teams the final score in the comic book they said it's 3-1, but they actually miscounted. It was actually 2-2. It was a tie. So it's yeah, I don't know how that got past the editors. But it was wonderful because it had almost all the characters in the Marvel universe at that time. And
Yeah.
it involved many of them. So and I knew a few of them, like Spider-Man, Captain America, but I was introduced to like all these like awesome characters, and it just got me hooked. The funny thing is, it would take a while before I got issues 2 and 3 to finally read the outcome of the series, but I literally read those till they fell apart, and
Yeah.
all I have is the cover left. So
That's fantastic.
yeah,
But are
and
you you must be
sorry,
so glad you've still got even part of the book.
I do, yeah, and it's just because I kept the cover in a scrapbook with other kind of mementos, and I'm sure because my parents don't throw anything out. I'm sure it might be at my parents' house somewhere, but
Oh wow.
I don't know. I don't know where. And but after that, I didn't know that some of my friends actually had comic books. So one of my friends who lived close by, he had a neighbor who gave him a bunch of like DC comics from the 1970s, as well as some Marvel.
Mhm.
And I would borrow them and read them, and I remembered those. They were like Superman Family. There's some of the lesser known DC titles from that time, like Rima, Prez, Strange Sports Stories. I think these were like the Castaway comic books from his neighbor that he didn't really care so much. So he didn't have any of like the bigger titles like Batman or Flash or Superman. But yeah, and it was great. Like I loved it. And after that, with a couple of my other friends, we started like checking out comic book stores and buying back issues, but mostly just like the cheap stuff, whatever we could afford, because I had no money back then. Um, and then just slowly over the years, it became a passion, addiction, whatever you want to call it. Like, and
Yeah.
and and now I like talking about it and making these YouTube videos because it's just a fun passion project for myself.
Oh, we're all grateful for that. And so when you and your friends were going about, looking for comic book stores and trying to pick comics up, was this was it maybe sort of less focus on buying new titles that were coming out? Were you just trying to get anything from anywhere that you could find, regardless of whether it was old or?
It started being a mix of both. I would say my like I remember buying like very early issues of Alpha Flight when it came out,
Mhm,
and that title in particular, just because it's a Canadian superhero group, and it's like, wow, this is like the coolest thing in the world, Canadian superheroes, and yeah, John Byrne did the writing and the artwork, so I remember buying those issue off the stands, but that store, it was a store called the Paperback Shop in like the west end of Toronto. They also had a spinner rack, and they had comic books for half off the cover price. And the funny thing is, like, if the comic book had a 50-cent cover price, it'd be 25 cents. If the comic book had a dollar cover price, it'd be 50 cents. So
mhm,
I'd always be looking at the cheap stuff. And sometimes they had like literally, I think like 10-cent comic books. So like if the comic book had like a 20-cent cover price, it would be 10 cents. So
mhm.
new comic books at that time were still, you know, pretty cheap, pretty affordable, like 75 cents Canadian or 60 cents Canadian. So, but I like looking at the spinner rack because it was cheaper stuff and it was older comic books. And I was always kind of fascinated with like these older comic books.
That's very cool. That's very cool. And I mean, I'm sure I'm definitely sitting thinking, have I ever been to a birthday party where you get given anything as cool as comics? I'm quite sure I haven't. So it's maybe kind of a strange question, but at one point, so all I think all of us at some point, we started getting comic books from somewhere. We get given comic books, or we started buying stuff that was coming out every week from the local news agents or whatever it's called. But there's a point where it goes from accruing and having a pile of comic books to the point where you are actually a collector. So, do you have any thoughts on when did it turn from something that you just do and pick up into no, actually, I'm a comic book collector. This is a collection. I'm going to start to curate it and add to it. Is there anything
I,
significant that?
I don't know if there was a particular point, but I certainly do remember it might have been like the time where I went to the first comic book store. And in Toronto, there's a big one that's been around for many years, even though they've moved many locations, and it's called the Silver Snail. And I was completely, my mind was blown because here they had well organized back issue stock. And it's like, oh wow. And I also realized like some of these are pretty expensive. So okay, I should keep my books well organized and start to kind of like be mindful that oh, these may actually be worth something at some point. I think as well too, you know how Mile High Comics used to always have that centerfold spread where they would list all their back issue prices. Like
Mhm.
I also kind of became a little obsessed with that maybe, like because I would see like, oh, why is like this book so expensive? And it's like, oh, well, this is the first issue of so and so and whatever.
Yeah.
But there's that period of time, especially if you're a kid, you kind of get excited about stuff like that. Um,
Hmm.
but after that first visit at that comic book store, I think something kind of clicked and saying, okay, I should organize and keep my books in better condition. And, you know, yeah, that was probably one of the big turning points.
So I think a lot of people, including myself, are going to have a similar answer to that question. It's that sort of suddenly you're presented with, oh, wait a minute, here's books that are organized, here's books that go beyond what's just available now, here's different
Yeah,
prices on them, you know, a sense of all that. Have you found that over the last, so what, a year and a half, getting on for 2 years, you've been doing the channel? Has that started to influence more what you do in terms of collecting or buying stuff? Do you find that
absolutely.
sort of need to find something to make an
Well,
episode about?
uh, it's not necessarily I need to. Uh, it's I used to be a lot more pickier in terms of what I
Mhm.
bought. Um, I'm not as picky now, um,
Okay.
and as well, just because I guess my concerns before is I just didn't want to accumulate too much stuff, um,
Yeah.
and I'm kind of failing at that the past couple of years, but that's okay. That's okay. Um, but I will pick up. Actually, my biggest problem these days is and I think I've mentioned this is restraint. Just because
Mhm.
there have been certainly a lot of opportunities where I especially if stores have sales, they put out like cheapy bins. It just brings out this kind of part nostalgia because I used to always love diving into cheap bins and finding stuff, but as well as like the thrill of finding like a good buy for like a good price,
Sure.
as well as stuff that I used to own, but I don't own anymore, and recapturing some of that stuff. So always
Well,
kind of happy about that.
let's just drill down on that for a minute then, the collection sort of as it is. Do you know how many comics you've got?
Oh no, I'm gonna say like north of 4,000, which is not
Oh,
a crazy amount. It's not a crazy amount, but
mhm.
it's a fair amount. Like you can see that all those short boxes, they're all full, and there's some long boxes on this side over here. And I do have some more hidden elsewhere in the house. um, it used to be a lot more. It used to be a lot more,
Mhm.
like at least twice of that. Um, and so after I got married, I did do a fair amount of thinning out of my collection. Um, I used to sell a lot on eBay, like this, and we're talking like late '90s, early 2000s. Um,
Well, that was
and there
really
was
when that was really when sort of eBay landed, and for me,
yeah.
I had real access to overseas comics, and it was great to be able to get stuff from further afield, and have a platform to sell stuff to a bigger audience
Yeah.
that rather than your local newspaper, which is fantastic. But it was also seriously bad for tempting you to just replace
Oh,
everything you
yeah.
sold
It was
with more stuff.
it was actually like a fantastic time to be a seller early on. So there was a really big advantage for sellers back then. Um, and shipping wasn't horribly expensive at that time as well too. Like I remember I could ship books to the US, like because now like if I want to, I haven't done eBay in years, but it's become more difficult. Like it's really strange now because me, I think that the barrier now is a lot more difficult for Canadian sellers anyways, because there's a lot more bureaucracy that you've got to deal with, or expenses that weren't there before. I think
Hmm.
it's very difficult for Canadian sellers or international sellers now because you got to ship and it's got to be tracked, and like it doesn't make sense putting up a $5 comic book that somebody's got to pay $25 to ship. It's like it's so it's I I'm kind of sad about that, but it's what it's not. But it's not to say that there aren't other really good platforms out there that are not that weren't there before, um, from Instagram to whatnot to everything else. So
Yeah,
everything
yeah.
evens out, I
But
guess.
I find the same thing. I mean, I buy a lot of stuff from the States, and it's trying to find that right balance of, so on eBay I can be, I'll try and find that one seller that's got not just the particular book I'm looking for, but enough other items that I really want
Yeah,
at the right prices, and put them in the basket and then see what the shipping's going to come to, and it's like, okay, I need to take one out, or I can add two more in, just
yeah,
to try and get the value for money. But I mean, think the situation you're in now, we understand in the UK, because European sellers must be people in European countries, not the UK, since Britain left the European Union. Um, Sellers in European countries must be finding it really difficult. And I see sellers with great items at great prices from Germany and Scandinavia, mostly on eBay. And I'd love to buy their stuff, but the shipping has gone up so much. I mean,
yeah,
insane amount. It's actually cheaper to get stuff from the States than it is from a country I could fly to in 40 minutes. It- you know,
yeah. I know.
but
It's
that's why
it's what it is, right? Yeah.
that's why when I came to the States in September, I bought an enormous suitcase and brought it with me. I really did. I filled it with
You should do an
these
episode on that
comics.
in terms of what you picked up.
I filled it with before I left.
Yeah.
I boxed up a lot of my comics, put them in the case, and weighed it to try and work out how many comics I could buy when I was in the States.
Okay.
And I figured, I thought it should be safe to bring back about 200. And forget clothes. I'd take old clothes with me so I could just bin them. This is absolutely true. It's massive suitcase on wheels. And I did. I brought back nearly 200 comics. It's brilliant. And managed. I didn't get charged for being over, having my case overweight at
Nice.
the airport. So, however, this is about, it's about you and your collection. So, do you? And in fact, what I'm going to do, because we've not looked at a book for a while, can you show me a book that you bought recently, or the last book that you bought?
Yeah, I could hold on a second here. So this is a copy of Our Army of War number 151, and I've actually been looking for this book for quite a long time, but it's it's always been like a question of like grade and price. And
Uh-huh.
there's a used bookstore in Toronto that has actually a few locations called BMV Books, and for whatever reason they've been getting um, a collection of like war comic books in the past, I don't know, 3 4 months. And initially they did not have this book, but they 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 put this on their Instagram, and like war comic books are not especially popular with collectors up here in Canada, but I was really happy to find this because this is the first appearance of enemy Ace, which is this burning
All right.
question mark over here, and
Mhm.
what I consider to be some of the best DC Silver Age comic books from that time, written by Robert Kanigher, drawn by Joe Kubert, and uh, he's a World War I uh, ace pilot, and it's like stories from his perspective, and I've loved the series. The I've had like um the archives as well as some of the other. I have some of the original issues as well too from Star Spangled War stories.
You've got a habit on your channel of showing things that then I have to make a note of and go and buy. And I'm gonna if I can switch this back over, I'm going to let's see if I can do that. There we go. I'm going to show a couple of examples and see if you plead guilty to them. So I don't buy new stuff. I will if I see something interesting or something piques my interest. I'll maybe pick up a trade paperback or the odd issue just to have a look. One of them recently, and this was from you. Bear in mind, you went to I think a dollar bin clear out or something at one of your local stores. So you got this for peanuts. It cost me much more to get hold of.
Oh
The
yeah,
first
Mr.
one,
X.
Mr. X. So this is the first 4 issues in here.
Oh,
So
fantastic! You know that first
get
issue
that
is hard
here.
to find.
Yeah, they're not in
They have
great
like
condition, and it wasn't really expensive for 4 issues. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't as cheap.
yeah.
But it's just it was this cover is absolutely stunning. I think
Oh,
it's
I think so many of the early covers are fantastic from that series. Like
yeah.
Vortex is a Canadian publisher, so like um, you know they did a lot of interesting indie books around that time, like where indie publishers were starting to kind of explode, but Vortex kind of came and went. Although um, the one really notable Canadian artist to come out of Vortex is Chester Brown,
Mhm.
and he did a series called Yummy Fur, um, and he's gone on to do some pretty incredible stuff. Um, and actually, um, another example that another book that I was going to show. Um, I don't know, maybe I'll show it now. But
Okay.
but he did this, and this is something that I would highly recommend anyone to read.
Yeah.
Louis Riel, who was one of the most tragic Canadian political figures in history. And so this is
Now
kind of like a
I'm sorry, I'm gonna interject. I'm gonna stop you there for 2 reasons,
okay.
right? One, that's one that's on my list because of you.
Oh,
And and
okay.
and 2, if anyone is watching this and we haven't seen you talk about this, I absolutely insist they go to your channel and find the episode. I'll see if I can find it out and actually put a link to the video. But I mean, you sold me on it. That's the way
Yeah.
you talked about it. You absolutely sold me on it, and that's why that one's on my list. I haven't picked it up because it's a bit expensive to get here, but and it's a historical Canadian figure,
Yeah.
significant figure. But see, that's just this is what he does. He holds things up. He starts talking about them, and before you know it, your hands in your wallet. I'm going to show, I've got a long list like that, but I'm going to show one more thing, which is entirely your fault. They did come up in the first episode, but because of Raph, let me just switch back. Because of Raph, I bought
Oh yes.
13 volumes of these EC
EC archives.
archives.
Oh
I'm going
yeah.
to put that in front of my face because it looks better than my face. So I went looking for a couple of examples. So it's Two Fisted Tales, Volume 1. I went looking for a couple of examples after seeing one of Raph's videos. And I came across a guy who had, I think, 15 for sale at a reasonable price. And I was like, I'm not buying 15 of them. The postage alone will be ridiculous.
Yeah.
And
It weighs a
They
ton, yeah.
they they didn't. I think it was the case that they didn't sell at what he was asking for. Which kind of surprised at. And I made him an offer. So like if I buy 13 of these, and it wasn't a silly offer. It was a decent offer, but we were both happy with it. So the only person that wasn't happy was my postman, who I think had a hernia after delivering them. But the thing is, he sent. So it was 13 of these books, and he sent them all individually. So I don't know if he already
What?
had them all packaged.
Oh,
Are you up for a challenge?
yes, absolutely.
I'm gonna. So on your channel, you've got a lot of beautiful short documentaries, essays, presentations, if you like, on artists, titles, genres, publishing companies, historic stuff, artistic stuff. Fantastic, something for everyone. And I think with the range of books you'd seen, what I wanted to do is pick a book and just see if you can tell me anything about it. No shame if you can't. Hopefully, you'll rush out and buy a copy. But what I'm going to challenge you with, Raph, is this.
What? What is that?
Oh, that's the right answer. I'm sorry about the glare. Let me see if I can. Can you see
Dear
that
Beatrix
okay?
Fairfax. So, American Romance, I'm gonna guess early 50s? Is that Fawcett?
Uh, so it's 1951,
Okay, okay,
which is great. That is from ANC.
oh, okay. That's a great cover.
It's stunning, isn't it? And
Yeah,
do you know what's very, very special about this cover? Can you guess the artist?
no.
I'm very proud of myself for choosing this book. So yeah, it's 1951 from ANC, the publisher, Beatrice Fairfax, issue 7, and that is a
Okay.
painted cover by Alex Schomburg.
What? Really?
Yes,
I would have never have guessed. Well, I
neither would
can
I.
kind of see actually like some of the airbrush stuff, kind of airbrushy like stuff that he did. Um, you know, that's like a bucket list item for me. I actually don't have any Schomburg covers. Uh,
Really?
from yeah, well, okay, that's not entirely true. I've got like an Invaders annual one which has a Schomburg cover, but when I
Yes.
mean Schomburg, I mean like 1940s timely the big three: Human Torch, Submariner, and Captain America
Yeah.
on either like All Winners or Marvel Mystery. Like I would love to have one of those, but they become so prohibitively expensive that it's like
I'm going to just briefly bring it up again because this is a thing, and this is a real problem I have looking at people on covers. Don't you think that looks like Helen Hunt?
well, yeah, I could see that.
I think most people, at some point or in general, part of their collecting criteria is runs. You know,
Hmm.
I collect. So you and I both collect Blackhawk, and at some point
Yes.
you look at the
Wait,
gap
wait,
you've got in
wait,
your
you collect Blackhawk?
not not
That's awesome.
not
We're one of the few, man.
not on the scale you do, but and not as nice copies as you've got. But I've picked up a lot of them just because they're cheap, they're old, and they look
Yes.
fantastic. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I think, like as you said, some of the reading nowadays is a bit sort of like a lot of the old stuff. Some of the stories are a bit hokey, but they're all good. But Yeah, oh gosh, I've gone down a rabbit hole with that, haven't I? What the hell was I talking about? Yeah. So collecting criteria. So for example, it might be, you want to collect a full series 1 to 36 of something, or you want to collect the first 10 issues of something, or with the Avengers, I want to collect 150 to 250 because that for me is a period from my childhood that
Yeah.
I remember. And I know that trying to get the whole thing's madness, that's mad. So I think runs are a big thing for anybody, but people have other quirky subsets of collecting criteria. For example, and I'm not into this yet, I'm not pursuing this yet, but I love covers with trains on them. And I'm not a
Oh,
big
okay.
train. I'm not a big train person, but when I see a cover with, and the train's usually falling off a bridge or a subway thing bursting through the sidewalk, or not like just
Yeah.
Thomas the Tank Engine type of thing, but some action scene involving a train. I have to make a note of. I have to go into my app and put it on the wish list. And one day, this gallery is going to feature 22 covers with trains on. Mark my words. And I recently saw someone else say that, and I love this. One of their quirky subsets for collecting is ominous hands.
Oh, really?
Ominous.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
how about you? What's I mean, presumably runs are part of what you collect, but are there any
So,
other?
yes, like I've mentioned a few times, like older comic books with dogs on them, just because I'm a dog owner. And so now I won't really go super out of my way to look for some of these, but when I do come across them, I'll pick them up, especially like painted covers. Um,
Mhm.
I really like the the Dell like stuff like Rin Tin Tin or like Lassie, that
Lassie.
the
Yeah.
50s, 60s stuff. Um, there's a DC run, a well-known run for collectors called Rex, The Adventures of Rex the Wonder Dog. I don't have any of those, but I would love to own just a few examples of those because for whatever reason, it's a highly collectible run, and some of those issues can be a little expensive. But that's something that I'll keep an eye out for if I'm out, in the wild looking for stuff. But I rarely ever see those um, in the wild. So there's that, and more recently in the past few years, um, cover wise, gray tone covers, and I've done a video on the DC gray tone covers, which I think are
Yeah.
fabulous, and I did even bring like the last one that I bought, which is this GI Combat. Uh, so
Is that
Jerry
Joe
Grandinetti,
Kubert?
uh, Jerry Grandinetti did this one.
Ah,
Kubert actually didn't do too many gray tones, but um, it was Grandinetti who did quite a few of these. And but but the guy who was behind this is Jack Adler, the colorist who kind of developed the process to create the kind of like this kind of like painted effect. Um,
yeah.
but and that run in GI Combat, there's what they call like the Purdy 30, which had like a run of these gray tone covers. I think the earlier ones are better than the later ones. Um, Also, like Haunted Tank made its first appearance. The the first appearance of Haunted Tank has this outstanding cover with these kind of like dive bombers. And it's a gray tone
Mhm.
cover as well too. That one's kind of out of reach, but there are other what I call like gray tone or wash tone covers from the 60s and even some like horror titles kind of use that kind of effect. But specifically the war titles had some really good ones. And there's some kind of ones that are not as well known. I think even Rex the Wonder Dog had a few gray tone covers, and Those would be the ones that I would want to own. But yeah, I don't know if I'll ever come across them. And I kind of like to have them in decent condition, like a nice VG, and that makes it even more difficult because with a lot of these older comics, they're often when you do find them, they're you almost can't look at them; they're in so bad condition.
Yeah,
But that's
yeah.
another kind of like subset that I really like, just because I think they're beautiful. Like
Hmm.
those great home covers, I like because of this kind of weird painted effect that they have. Um, they really kind of stand out for me.
So on covers, one of the questions I asked my guest in episode one, and I'd like to ask you, is if there's a particular cover of a book that, and it, regardless of what it is or what the story's like, is there a book with a cover that every time you look at it, it just sort of makes you feel good, just makes you smile, makes you happy?
So,
No.
just so like Neil Adams, like his covers, like Batman 227, which is a um, kind of like an homage to Detective 31. I again, it's also kind of like a great town cover as well too, and that one's even. I think what Neil Adams did um, as well, really well, was that for some of those Batman issues, he created that depth with having that kind of washed out effect in the back and then something in the forefront. So that was like
Yeah.
the female being chased by the guy with the dogs. And he also did that with Batman 232, the Ra's al Ghul cover, with the green cover with Ra's al Ghul in the back and then Robin getting shot in the front. Bernie Wrightson and like for whatever weird reason, I always mispronounce his last name. Um, I always say Bernie Wrightston instead of Bernie Wrightson, and people have been razzing me about that, and I'm glad they do because it's embarrassing. But I did like bring this to show, which I've also shown in a
Oh,
few other videos, and
and once
I
again,
just
sir,
yeah.
once again, that's something that I ended up spending an hour on Amazon, eBay, international bookshops, what have you, trying to find an affordable copy because
Oh, it is so good. Sorry.
you continue. You continue. You
and
know, hold it up again, and you talk about it.
and so I just watched Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein last night, and
No
fantastic. It's
spoilers.
yeah, well, it's close to the book. So if you've read the book, um, it's very respectful of it.
Mm,
It's longer than I thought it was going to be. It was over 2.5 hours long, but visually stunning. And
mm.
I think he does he treats the monster character very well. Um, but for this, this is like something that I would never want to part with. Well, just because I love it so much, and like you said, it's not necessarily an easy item to find, um,
Yeah.
unless you spend buckets of money on it. Um, and the amazing thing, like Bernie spent, I think, over 6 years working on this, on the different plates inside, and it's not really a comic book per se. It's just a book with fantastic illustrations by Bernie Wrightson. But it was
Yeah.
published by Marvel, and um, Jim Shooter said this was one of the best things that he thinks Marvel ever published, and I agree. Like it's such an amazing production, and the work by Mr. Wrightson is just off the charts. And
Could you just show one of the plates from it?
oh yes, I will show you the plate
The plate.
It's a where are you? So it's the cover is the first half of it, and then the full plate is this.
It's
And just
unbelievable.
like, and apparently this really messed up his hands, and you could see, you could see like how, like it,
Yeah.
the yeah, the work is just incredible. And apparently Guillermo del Toro owns most of the original artwork for that.
So one thing you said about that book there was you'd never ever part with it, and that's one of the questions I'm interested in on people with issues. It is about do you have another book? Let's say, for
Okay.
example, you get up, you open the blinds, and hurtling along the subway track, because you live near a subway, don't you? I happen to know.
I do.
You do.
I'm like,
Is
I'm grateful we haven't
the,
heard it.
the abominations on roller skates, and he's hurtling towards your house, and you know it's all going to go pear-shaped. It's going to go wrong. You've got time to grab one book, save one book. What's it going to be?
So I mean that the Frankenstein book is up there, but I think the one that
It's too
I really
heavy.
love the most is this is
Oh, no
Fantastic
way.
Four number 51. Yeah, this man, this monster. Um,
Just
just
turn that
because
slightly.
it's
Perfect. Thank you.
trying to get the so there's like
Issue
the ring light.
51.
Yes,
Yep. Issue
and
51.
it's one of my maybe my favorite single story issue of all time. Um, and I remember like reading it probably in the late 80s. It was part of um like a trade paperback, like Marvel's best stories, and it was one of
Yep.
them. And I was just like, it was fantastic, and you know, and hard to imagine that it came out right after what a lot of people consider to be like Stan Lee and Jack Kirby's best story arc, the Silver Surfer Galactus story arc, in 48 to 50, and 51 is just even that much better. So like, and it's a really nice
Right.
copy too. I paid a lot of money for it, um, but you know, so
So,
it's yeah, you know, to me that is kind of like peak Marvel Silver Age. Um,
yes.
when you think of like Marvel Silver Age, Spider-Man, like I don't. If I had a nice copy of Spider-Man number 33, this you know the final chapter issue, I don't, but that would be something. That would be another comic book that I would really love. Just because that's also another one of my favorite issues.
Well,
And
this is absolutely true, Raph. Right? We didn't
yeah,
obviously we had a nice chat before we started recording, and we've previously chatted via Messenger about a few things. That is issue 51. Fantastic Four is one of my top three. I will have a copy of that one day. I must have a copy of it one day. And don't get me wrong, if I had a copy and the abomination was roller skating towards my house and I had to grab a book, it wouldn't be that book. And it's only for other reasons I would choose something else. But when I was probably just around the time I started collecting US Marvel comics, in the UK, we had Marvel UK produced these A5 sized pocketbooks, and they would reprint
yeah,
old Fantastic Four, Spider Man, Avengers, Micronauts, stuff like that. And they were great value for money because they were small, thick digest books, small panel stuff, which is probably why I'm wearing glasses today. And that was my first access to Silver Age Fantastic Four. And when I read that story, it's stuck with me forever. It's always going to be one of my top 5 comic book stories. So it's fantastic to see that, and I applaud your choice. It's definitely worth saving.
Well,
But
thank you. Thank you. I really like stores that have a new arrivals section. So stuff that they've recently acquired, that you can kind of go through and see what they recently got, because on the most part, for their back issue bins, there's not necessarily something I'm looking for in particular. Uh,
mhm.
like, there's uh, like there's a run called Dreadstar by Jim
Yeah,
Starlin, and then later written by Peter David. And I'm still missing some of the last few issues for that run. So, but those last few issues are actually kind of hard to locate. There's some oddball titles like that I'll kind of look through in some of the sections in the hope that they might have something. But other than that, I do like looking in like the new arrival section, and if it's a sale like those dollar bin sales that I've been to, I'll just go through everything and I'll just start picking out stuff that I
yeah.
find that's interesting. Yeah. So I don't
So,
always necessarily go with a plan in terms of looking for something
yeah,
specific. And the thing with some of the stores that I go to, like BMV Books, they are it's really random what they'll have. Like you just
uh,
never know. They actually had a Chamber Chill 16 that somebody had purchased. That was a nice presenting copy, but it was $3,200. And that's like way beyond anything that I would ever consider buying. Like,
yeah.
but I mean, like it's nice to look at. You know what? I even have I took a picture of it just because I was
Oh, the one with the glass. Yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah, that's me holding it. And that's about as close as I'll ever get to owning or holding a copy of something like that. But the fellow there, Sean, was nice enough to if it already sold, somebody had already
Mhm.
purchased it, but he was nice enough to bring it out and show me the copy.
Nowadays, I've got multiple runs on the go. I've got these odd subsets of things I collect or other things I'd be interested in picking up for various reasons. And I'm very patient. And I got a sense that you're kind of like that. It's if you've got an issue missing from something and you want a specific grade, say, for example, you can wait for it. You're you seem to be okay with that. So I think that enhances the hunting experience because you can go out and browse and know that I might find something that fits one of these runs. I might find something that fits the train thing, the ominous hands. Where are they? Ominous hands, or a horror genre or whatever it is.
Oh yeah, I think as over time I've become more comfortable with that. I don't need to finish this run right away. I can take my time with it, and as well, if I don't, that's fine. Um,
Yeah,
but at the same time, if there's something that catches my interest, and I'm a very frugal collector, I like looking for good buys.
mm,
Um, I would be uncomfortable owning like really expensive comic books. It's not to
yeah,
say that $100 is $100 is still $100 Canadian is still it's not nothing. But I I wouldn't be yeah to own like a Chamber of Chills 16 or something like that. I don't know how. No, I don't know.
every time you get a book up and put it on the screen, it looks like the highest grade, and part of that's Mylar magic. But we're,
Yeah,
I think,
believe me,
I
like
think,
their
I think
Mylar does an amazing job of making your books look 10 times better than they are.
it's not a book I can blame you for, but I recently have spent a lot of money on my lights and decent backing boards
Worth every penny.
because and I've never been happier because I think I
Oh
don't know if I
yeah.
said to you in the UK, I was really struggling for. I like the resealable bags, but trying to get
Hmm.
ones that are the right size, the right quality. Um, you get inconsistent supplies. Sometimes the boards are terrible, really, really flimsy, skinny boards.
Yeah.
If I buy the same stuff off Amazon enough times, the price goes up because that's what happens with Amazon. If you have a regular repeat order, the price starts to go up
Yeah.
because it's like, hey, this is selling. But I found a very, very good comic shop in England that supplies this stuff. And over the last months, like all my Silver Age stuff has gone into these gorgeous My
Awesome.
Lights.
Yeah.
Um, to wrap up this recording, I just want to say that you, sir, definitely have issues. And I'm really grateful that you've taken time out today to share them with us. It's been such a pleasure. So I'll catch up and chat to you in a moment before I end the recording. For anyone else watching this, I want to say thanks very much for tuning in. Please like the video, drop a comment, say hi to Ralph. Most importantly, get over to Raph's channel. If you've not watched it in a while, if you're not subscribed, where the hell have you been? The Negative Zone. Get over and subscribe. For anyone else, go back and rewatch some of the videos because it's some of the very best historic, informative, educational content in relation to comic collecting. So, Raph, thanks again. Everyone else, until I see you next time, stay groovy. And there it is. Episode 2 is a wrap. I had such a blast with Raph. Brilliant to talk to, great fun, and such a nice guy. Thinks very deeply about what he's going to say, about what he's doing, and makes it really interesting. So yes, I did find plenty of things to talk to him about. We ended up with over 2 hours of recordings, and we were talking for longer than that. We'd probably still be there now if we hadn't had other things that we really had to get on with. So I look forward to talking to him again in future. Very fortunate. You'll notice, I think there's some things I left in the recording where I stopped Raph from getting into talking more about a particular book or item. And that's purely because he's already done a thoroughly researched and beautifully presented video on it on his own channel. So it's only right that we recommend you go and get the full experience of that there than a summary of it here. On the videos, I've only done 2 so far, and it's a very conversational tone. I really get into it. It's not a structured interview, it's not set repeated questions that are the same every time. And I really quite like the feel of it, even if it does mean the end product's a little bit untidy in terms of editing. Really interested to know what you think. If, bless you, you're sitting through 45, 50 minutes of video, I want to know how that feels for you. So any thoughts, advice, or feedback will be welcomed. And remember, if you want to record your own episode, just get in touch. You can email me or catch me on Instagram at Mr. McGroovy. I would love to speak to you. Don't be shy. So until next time, stay groovy.